It's mid-December 1944. American troops have come to a standstill in the frozen wilderness of the Ardennes forest. Here, exhausted GIs are trying to refit after months of bitter fighting across Europe. They believe this section of the line is quiet, safe, a place to recover. Weapons are cleaned, letters are written, and men try to recover their strength. Intelligence reports suggest the German army is reeling, short on fuel, short on men, and incapable of launching a serious attack. It's thought that the Germans could not possibly maneuver through the dense forest with its narrow, twisting paths. They're wrong. Germany launches a massive surprise offensive, a desperate high-stakes gamble that will become one of the most famous battles of the war. In the pre-dawn darkness, German artillery erupts across the front, followed by waves of infantry and armored divisions pushing through the dense forests of the Ardennes. The sudden onslaught catches GIs off guard, smashing into thin defensive lines, overrunning outposts and tearing open gaps before many soldiers even understand what's happening. Confusion spreads, communications break down, and what had seemed like a safe stretch of front instantly transforms into chaos. Within hours, the illusion of security is gone, replaced by the realization that a full-scale offensive is underway and that survival now depends on holding ground against overwhelming force. And to make matters worse, nature joins the fight. Record-breaking cold grips the region. Snow piles deep across the forests of Belgium, coating foxholes, weapons, and men alike. Temperatures plunge below freezing. Frostbite becomes as dangerous as enemy fire. So what exactly were American GIs wearing while fighting in these brutal conditions? Back in 1943, the U.S. Army had introduced redesigned winter clothing intended to better protect soldiers from cold and wet conditions. These newer layered systems, including improved jackets, liners, and boots, called the M43 uniform, were meant to replace older gear that hadn't held up well in harsh climates. But there was a problem. Because of the rapid Allied advance across Europe and internal supply disputes within the U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps, many frontline units never received the updated winter uniforms in time. As a result, when the German offensive hit the Ardennes, thousands of American soldiers were still wearing inadequate cold weather gear, or piecing together whatever they could find. In a battle where survival depended on staying warm, what a soldier wore could mean the difference between fighting and freezing. This is the American GI as he would have looked in the Ardennes. He wore wool-long underwear, the M37 wool uniform, leggings and service shoes, the M41 field jacket, the Melton wool overcoat, and field gear. Now let's break it down. Closest to the skin was the wool-long underwear, a cotton and wool blend designed to trap heat while staying somewhat breathable. It wasn't luxurious, but it formed the foundation of a soldier's defense against the cold. Over that came the standard M37 wool uniform, shirt and trousers. Wool was chosen because it insulates even when damp, making it far more reliable than cotton in freezing conditions. On their feet, many soldiers still wore service shoes with canvas leggings, fine for mild weather but dangerously inadequate in deep snow. Once wet, they stayed wet, and cold feet quickly became frostbitten feet or trench foot. While some units received the updated and superior M43 combat boot, many did not. Next came the M41 field jacket. Originally designed as a general-purpose combat jacket, it served as a middle layer in winter. While it provided some wind resistance with its poplin cotton shell, it wasn't built for extreme cold. Soldiers often complained that it simply wasn't warm enough for freezing conditions. For serious warmth, soldiers relied on the heavy Melton wool overcoat. It trapped heat extremely well, but it was bulky, restricted movement, and when wet, it could freeze solid and become stiff as a board. Prior to the winter fighting, it was mostly relegated to parade and dress wear. Over everything went the standard field gear and helmet. Cartridge belt, bayonet, canteen, and trenching tool. Every pound mattered when marching through snow, especially layered over heavy winter clothing. The troops often became frustrated when their web gear froze solid on cold nights. The German Ardennes offensive would ultimately fail. Allied forces regrouped and pushed back, exhausting Germany's last reserves on the Western Front. Improving weather would allow the Allies to bring their air force into play, crippling exposed German units. It would be Hitler's final major gamble in the West, and its failure helped seal the fate of Nazi Germany. But for the GIs in the Battle of the Bulge, as it becomes known, survival wasn't just about tactics or firepower. It was about staying dry, keeping circulation in your feet, finding enough warmth to make it through the night. Layer by layer, this is what American GIs went into winter 1944 with. Not a perfectly designed cold weather system, but a patchwork of standard issue gear, outdated equipment, and whatever could be scrounged or shared. Some of this gear worked. Some of it failed. And much of it was never meant for conditions this extreme. Yet despite the cold, the exhaustion, and the shortages, these men held the line, fighting not only the enemy surrounding them, but the winter itself.